AIW here with a legend. One of my personal favorites. You might know him as Tennessee Lee, Colonel Robert Parker, but everyone should know this man as Robert Fuller. A legend in professional wrestling, a legend Continental Wrestling, Smoky Mountain, WCW, everything. It's an honor to have you be part of AIW. How have you been enjoying your AIW experience?
Oh, I've been liking it very much. That you ever been to the Circus Olay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now listen, it ain't got nothing against these boys over here. They got the greatest show in all the world. I watch these boys here and I wonder night after night that I see them, I say, how in the world do they keep from filling up the hospital after every show they have here? These boys are in great shape and they're ready to go in there and put on a show. They're the best.
Well, I love the AIW shows, but I mentioned Continental. Back in the day, the stuff that you guys did, nobody was doing flips, nobody was doing dives, but the stories that you guys told, the emotion. Yeah. What was some of your favorite memories? Like if you said there was one thing that you had to show a person to make them fall in love with what you did in Continental, what would it be? The first thing that comes to your mind.
I'll give you a scenario. It's a scenario that a promoter would want to sell to his crowd. Mm-hmm. That my brother was going to wrestle Dory Funk for the world's heavyweight champion.
Okay.
If he could win this tournament that had two former world champions and Terry Funk in the tournament. And I went out and I made an interview because I wanted my brother, I was always selling my brother to the crowd. So I went out and made an interview saying that I was going to do my brother a favor and I was going to take one of those former world champions out. First round I had Terry Funk and I said I'll beat Terry Funk if it's the last thing I ever do. That I'll die before I lose to Terry Funk. I'm going to get him out of my brother's way so he can win this tournament and meet Dory Funk. Well, as it comes down, Terry's match and I, we went 25 minutes. Terry wound up with putting his head in the corner with me and a Boston Crab and getting the leverage where I was totally exhausted. I mean, the match was so hard that I didn't have anything left, and I had to give up. And when I gave up, I'm laying there in the ring, and I'm selling, and I'm saying, oh my gosh, I can't even raise up. I'm so exhausted. And my brother's standing in the back, and it's not something we planned or something that we said we're going to add this to our show or anything. And my brother's looking, and he says, I think Rob's having a heart attack. I think he's really. So he came down to the ring and entered the ring, and he comes over and he's really serious, and he looks at me and he goes, "You all right, kid?" Gosh, dog. And I said, I can't sit up. I'm exhausted. And so he took me and set me up, and he said, get your hair, try to get yourself together. That crowd was absolutely riveted because I had lost, but I had gone out there and laid my life on the line, saying, I'll beat this guy. If it's the last thing I ever do, I'll be out of the business if I don't win this one. And I didn't win it, and besides that, I'm laying there and I'm exhausted. My brother comes down. It's one of those moments where my brother went on then to beat all of his opponents in the tournament and then met Dory Funk the following week for the World Championship. But the storyline that happened in there was just like a miracle, that I was just exhausted, and I might have been having a heart attack or something, who knows. But boy, my brother came down, and the sympathy was there, and the people felt it all out in the crowd. You could just see the whole crowd standing, and they're just looking at the moment that I stood up. The crowd just busted because they realized it's okay. It's all right.
And that's
you didn't win. And those storylines, those type of things that we did back in the Continental days, they were just, when we did one after another, not just one match a night, sometimes 4 or 5 matches in a night. Mm-hmm. Great storyline to it. And people really enjoyed it.
And that's some of the stuff, you guys were down toward Florida, Alabama area.
Alabama.
We got that TV all the way up into the Northeast, up in like Baltimore and Maryland. I have friends of mine, a friend of mine Mark, a friend of mine Steve, they're my age, and they live and die like NWA, WWF, whatever it is, AWA, Continental is their childhood, you know, and I love hearing stories like that, and I love hearing these sort of things. Now, obviously, you mentioned Terry Funk. You got to work with Terry Funk a little bit more with the Stud Stable stuff.
Right.
Not, you know, Stud Stable got its start in Continental, but the WCW version is probably what a lot of our fans watching at home know. So it was like Terry Funk, it was Buck, it was Meng. Do you have any good Meng stories? That's something that always everyone talks about. He's famous. He's a legend.
I've got hundreds of Meng stories, but I'll tell you one. That I'm wrestling Dusty Rhodes. I got 3 guys in a cage.
Oh, the War Games match.
War Games.
Yes.
War Games. Guy loses, he's got to leave the cage. And if all of my guys get defeated, that's the Nasty Boys and Dusty beat my 3 guys, I've got to go in the cage with them. And Ming is my bodyguard at that time. And so he's watching over me and taking care of me. But end of the match, all of my guys lost. So when I'm fretting, I'm really dying, I got to go in the ring with them. And I go in, and Dusty and they throw me in, and they double team me, and they do all their stuff they do. And Dusty puts the figure 4 on me, and the Nasty Boys take turns dropping elbows on me. And believe me, pounding my guts out. They both weigh close to 300 pounds, and they're just and they're having no mercy. And it hurts to be in a figure 4. You never thought, somebody said, well, maybe you can apply that and it doesn't hurt. It does. When you're getting pounded by 2 other guys at the same time. So when it's all done, and they've murdered me, I'm laying in the ring and I'm all dead. And Ming, he's screaming on the cage like a wild monkey. And they get the door open, and Ming rushes in, and he gets over now. To get in the camera, he gets eye to eye, very close, like this, right? Just his face is just this close to me, and he looks at me. He's so serious, and he says, "Colonel Parker, are you okay?" And I said, "No, Ming, I shit my pants." He cracked up laughing. He just, oh God! I said, "No laughing. There's no laughing. This is a serious moment. We're in front of thousands of people on dadgum pay-per-view television. You big dumb, you can't laugh, you know." He's like, "Oh, don't ever say funny things to me like that."
Now, one more.
Great guy.
Another guy that you got to work with in WCW for a very long time was Steve Austin. Now, Steve Austin was like right coming up at that time, and then just a few years later to become like the biggest thing in wrestling history. What was it like working with Steve Austin? Did you see like that potential that he had all those years, you know, before?
Yeah, I did, but you know, I'm old school, and Steve, he's a younger fella than me.
Yeah.
And we rode together. We had more fun. We tore the roads up. We have more. I have more stories about me and Steve, but one of the best ones is Steve's deciding that he's going to go to New York, and he's got a contract in Atlanta, Georgia, $250,000 a year. And so I'm the old colonel, and I'm saying, "Hey, boy," I said, "you know, when you burn your bridges, you know, you can't go back. And the man has a contract, he ought to honor it." He said, "Well, I don't want to honor it. I don't want to, I'm mad at him. I'm going to New York." Well, I said, "You know, I don't know how you're going to do in New York, and you get $250,000. It's a lot of money, and all this story and everything." So he says, "Well, Colonel, I'll listen to you sometime, but on this one, I'm not going to." So he left. In 1998, this was about 1995. 1998, I go to New York to Jeff Jarrett, Tennessee Lee, and there's Austin sitting there. He made $14 million in 1 year, and he's looking and he's saying, "Hey, now the old colonel over there," he said, "I don't know if I'd have him doing all my business." I had to get a big laugh out of it. I said, "You know what, man?" I said, "Maybe you shouldn't have me doing your business." I shouldn't be your agent, buddy.
Well, Mr. Fuller, thank you very much. I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm looking forward to seeing you get out there with your group tonight.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to have a ton of fun.
I'm excited.
I'm going to have a ton of fun. You know, I see Missy Hyatt's over here. I might get a little sugar for the night.
Oh, boy. I don't know. I'd be a little leery. I don't know if she's got something for you. But you have a good night, sir.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you very much.
See you later.